We'll call to order at 6:12. And, I'm sure you guys got my email. We'll proceed, the meetings from here on out. A little different where I'll call and recognize each person to say what you want to say instead of just doing a flat out discussion. If everyone looked at the agenda and the minutes. If there's anyone who wants to approve, make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. And we don't need a second on a lot of these.
Okay.
My understanding. So all those who, approve the agenda, say aye.
Oh,
Aye. Okay. All right, now the comprehensive land use plan. I'm guessing this will be Corey, right?
Yes, you guys want to skip over number 2 first,
Yeah, approval of minutes.
or I can jump in?
Did y'all approve the minutes?
Yes, we
Uh-huh, we did. Yeah, yeah.
My mistake, I thought you just adopted these.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank y'all again for being here tonight, and before we jump in, I'd like to thank Paul for going through and making a list and sharing it out with everybody. That's helpful, and I just want to touch base before we start our conversation and discussion about how the future land use map works and how it fits in within the rest of the comprehensive land use plan. So the future land use map's purpose is to serve as a reference document within your comprehensive land use plan in the event that you receive rezoning requests in the future. So if somebody requests a rezoning, you would look at your future land use map to make sure that that requested district that they're asking for is consistent with what is shown on your future land use map. So that's how it's used. For instance, if they want to go from R10 to C2, you would look at their parcel on the future land use map and see if you had anticipated or wanted it to go to a commercial district, or if you wanted it to remain residential. The future land use map is not set in stone, nor is anything else within your comprehensive land use plan. But the future land use map is the aspect of the plan that's most likely to change in the future, because development's going to change and you can't anticipate everything. So what that means is if you receive a rezoning request and 5 years down the road, that parcel makes sense to be commercial, in the example I used before, but at this time you thought it should remain residential, it doesn't mean that you have to turn down that rezoning request. It just means that you can approve the request, but at the same time, you'll have to amend your future land use map within your plan to make sure that it's consistent, because you have to do the consistency statement, which you did at the last rezoning meeting, request that you had at the last meeting. So that's how it works from a high level view. It does not change your zoning by itself. So whatever you say the future land use is on this map, and it's adopted by town council, it doesn't change the zoning at all. The zoning only changes when somebody goes through the rezoning request process. This is just a reference document. Again, you're not beholden to it, but to Paul's point in the discussion last time, you want to make sure that you anticipate as best you can, and that you include the land uses on the parcels that you feel is most appropriate for future development. Because you don't want to change your land use map every time you have a rezoning request, only in special circumstances when you feel something has changed between now and whenever you receive that request that warrants you reconsidering your future land use map. There are 2 considerations when you're determining what a parcel's future land use should be on the map. First consideration is, what's the existing land use and where do we anticipate the land use going? So if I expect it's going to be commercial in 5 years, even though it's residential now, that's a consideration to take into account. Then the second consideration is it appropriate for that land use to change in the future? If it's residential now, is it appropriate, even though I expect it to go commercial in the future? Is it consistent with how I want the town to develop and how I see the vision for Burnsville being. And that's entirely up to you all as citizens of the town and appointed members of this board. So with all that said, we can start the discussion on individual parcels, but before we do, I'd be happy to answer any questions, clear up any confusion anybody has about how it works and what's important to you.
Is consistency a personal opinion, or is consistency a broadly accepted, I said that, last week that it was consistent with my idea of.
From a statute standpoint, consistency, when you're considering a rezoning request, means that it's consistent with the plans that you've adopted. So if you've adopted, for example, this plan, it gets adopted by town council and 6 months down the road, you get a rezoning request. You are having to say that it's consistent with what you all anticipated and adopted within the plan. And if it's not, you have to turn it down, or you have to change the plan. So when you're saying consistent, it's not personal consistency, it's a consistent with what's on the books.
Well, then
This is your opportunity to put your personal input into it at the planning stage.
And I'll just add to that, right now, the town of Burnsville doesn't have a comprehensive land use plan. What we had when we adopted the new zoning regulations in 2014 was a grouping of plans. There was the 2004 Economic Development Land Use Plan that the county adopted. There was a plan sometime between that and 2012 that maybe NC Step or Main Street did. Then in 2012, there was a plan done by the Department of Commerce that basically made recommendations to change our zoning ordinances in certain ways. Went through a process like this with a steering committee. So what statute allows us to do right now is sort of combine all those plans. And when you guys make a decision about a zoning thing, you're supposed to look for justification within that plan. And either it's consistent with the plan or it's inconsistent with the plan. Okay, so that's why you'll see two consistency statements, one that says it is, one that says it isn't, but it's consistency with the plans in that case. Now, the General Assembly has said no more groupings of little plans. Everybody, if they want to have zoning, has to have a comprehensive land use plan, which is what we're doing here, so that we can comply with the statute and our zoning can still stand once the time period elapses to get these plans done. So everybody across the state is now either having to update the comprehensive plan they had or create one comprehensive plan. And what you will do going forward is if you get a rezoning request or a text amendment request to the actual zoning document, you will go to that plan and you will say, is there something in this plan that makes this request consistent with our future land use plan? If there isn't, then what the council who makes the ultimate decision will have to do is adopt either a revision to the plan or reject the request. Okay? So it's not just, I feel like it's consistent or the properties around it are consistent. Consistency in terms of a consistency statement is specific to being consistent with the plan.
This will make it easier to do that.
So if it's not on this, then it's not consistent.
Well, I mean, I kind of yes and no. I think this makes it, to me, most of the time when you look at a rezoning application and you look at your plan, you can find some things that are consistent with the plan and some things that are maybe inconsistent with the plan.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, some plans have like a lot of language about steep slopes or floodplains or those sorts of things, but still you can find pieces of the plan that where a piece of property may be partially in a floodplain, it's still consistent with the other parts of the plan. This, if it's inconsistent, what council would do is then, if they felt like there was, I guess, enough consistency with the plan that they wanted to move forward. But for some reason, this was inconsistent, then they would amend this map at that time. But that's when you get to the process of someone who owns one of these pieces of property actually coming to you and saying, we want to change our zoning designation.
So, just a question. So the long-term, the consistency is the long-term overall goals of the plan itself.
Is it consistent with the goals of the plan? Is it
Right.
consistent with the recommendations of the plan?
Right.
So, if the lot that he was asking to be, rezoned or whatever to commercial, and we said it was inconsistent with his plan?
No, not this plan, because this isn't our plan yet.
Yeah,
This hasn't
it was
been
the last one.
adopted. No, it's inconsistent with
Yeah.
a grouping of plans that I don't know how much you guys in the past have reviewed or looked at. I mean, the plan, the plans that they based our current zoning off of is what they looked at when they just made that determination, and that was before my time, and I'd say before most of y'all's time. And I think there's been kind of an inconsistency to keep with that theme of passing on the information to the future board members. You know, each time you make one of these decisions, you should be looking at those specific plans and going through them and finding where the request is either consistent or inconsistent.
Okay,
Paul?
But when you get this done, you'll just have one document you have to look at.
good.
Yeah, which will be a lot easier.
Unfortunately, I think we determined the last time we had a zoning request was maybe 2016. So, you know,
Yeah.
and y'all are making a recommendation. It's not,
So,
yeah.
Paul?
There's a little time delay, so I'll try to work with that. I think what's had confused me for a while, and I think I've got it straight now, is that in a perfect world, the comprehensive land use plan would come first, and then you would create a map use recommendations from the plan. So in essence, we didn't have that comprehensive land use plan, so now we're trying to put that in. And we're taking the opportunity now to look at our zoning map and say, okay, now we're getting ready to put this comprehensive land use plan together. Let's look at the existing uses. Let's look at what we think is appropriate in the future. And we've got an opportunity to adjust that or say that we think it's appropriate to adjust that in the future. And then it's a guidance for us in approving or not approving future requests for zoning. And then the town council can approve it or not approve it. And so I think that's part of what's confused me was that we kind of got to get things back in an order here with respect to our land use planning versus our zoning map that is the legal instrument to implement zoning, the comprehensive land use plan. Am I somewhat right there, Corey?
Yeah, you are. I just want to clarify that the town would not be initiating any rezonings. So this document is only it would be referenced in the event that a property owner initiates a rezoning request. By adopting the future land use map and the plan and whatever designations you choose to put in the future land use map, it doesn't spark a process where the town goes out and looks at parcels and says, we need to rezone this to this, this, and this because it's in our future land use map. That's not the plan for the town. I don't think the town has any interest in doing that.
Were you wanting to say something? Oh, I thought you were. Oh, sure? Nope. Okay.
And just a question to make sure this, as the board here, this is a preliminary vetting process that then is passed on to the council who does the final vote.
Right, and it will have to go through a public hearing process
Correct.
and all that sort of thing before council finally votes to approve the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like everybody's got a pretty good grasp on the fundamentals and mechanics of how it works and the importance of it. So with that said, if one or all of you all would like to jump in and start talking about individual parcels that you might have concerns with, I think we can just get the process started.
Okay. If we wanted to start with one, sorry, I can't see tonight, so you might have to help me out. If we want to start, on the list here that was sent out, the spreadsheet list. Number one, the C2 to residential R10. And I think I made notes of, not saying they're right, of maybe where that exact one is. Does that help?
So that particular
Is that
parcel
following?
is a multifamily housing development. Currently, and it's a split zone. The parcel got two different zones on it. I'm looking at the right one here. On Kyle Lane.
Yes, 15 Kyle Lane.
That's 100 Street Apartments.
Thank you.
And the only access is off of 100 Street. There's no Main Street access. And it's split currently as two separate zoning districts.
But it is a residential use currently, so.
It's used as residential. That's 100 Street Apartments.
That's probably going to change.
Hunter's Run is what you're talking about?
Mhm.
And I will say, in all of our zoning districts, residential is permitted. Sometimes it's permitted by right, like in R10, where if you own that piece of property, you definitely have the right to build a house there. If you own a piece of property in C3 that doesn't have anything on it, or C2, you can request through a special use permit to allow housing there. It's not as a matter of right. As a matter of right, you can do different commercial things. So sometimes I think that gets a little confusing, Corey, because we have land uses that have typically maybe been used as residential for a lot of years, even though they weren't zoned that way, you know. But it's not, so it's kind of a non-conforming use because the zone is commercial, but in a way it's not, because you could be allowed to have residential there if you went through the process, so.
Anyone have any discussion about that one? The first one, 15 Kyle Lane? And we can just do one thing at the end, right, Heather? I
Yeah,
don't need to do every single
well,
thing,
yeah, and I don't know that you have to
do anything.
necessarily adopt the map with the Corey by the standing alone. They just need to
The
recommend
recommendation of
plan go
changes.
forward. Yeah,
With any change.
with any changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
So you can go through all of them.
all right, then we'll move on to the number 2. Is that CeeLo Street?
That's Holcomb Brothers property. And those are, both those lots are just parcels that have been absorbed into the main, it's all one parcel now. They were split off. There was a couple of little small parcels, but they're all one parcel now.
Okay.
It's all part of Holcomb Brothers.
Holcomb Brothers Funeral, that's where the funeral home is.
And that would be residential to commercial.
Yep.
Anyone, any discussion about that? Nope. Okay, next one. Would that be Meadow Road?
That is the property we talked about last time with the zoning map amendment.
I'm just gonna go by yours as opposed to mine. My address isn't what I found. That'd be a lot easier. So, okay, the second number 2.
That's, both number twos are part of Holcomb Brothers. There were two smaller lots. that
Gotcha.
were absorbed.
Okay. So then on to number 3 is your,
Again, that's the one we discussed last time with these requests for sort of amendment.
okay. Okay, any discussion about that one being, residential to commercial?
We've already discussed it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not much more to say. You know what I mean? Like, didn't we oppose it?
It was split last time, so it failed, the last
I
one.
just think it should be commercial because, you know, the way that it's connected to, the highway. It shows the address with the main street. The way it sits up kind of above a commercial property and it's away from the residential areas. It's just a little nugget of land there that I think it wouldn't really hurt anything to be commercial. I still stand by what I think, but.
Okay. Anybody else, any comments about it? Going from residential to commercial? Okay, Paul?
Just the same, I know it has a Main Street or East Main Street address, but it's basically an alleyway that connects that inland property to Main Street. So I really haven't changed from last week. I think it's an That's it.
Is there any way we can come back to that one at the end?
Yeah, man, can I just make a quick, I mean, this is gonna be decided by council.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
this land use plan is adopted.
Yeah,
So it may be a moot point.
Yeah.
If they rezone
Okay.
it to commercial, then it's not, what it is on this map is not necessarily gonna be, this map won't be adopted at that point.
mm-hmm,
The
Okay.
actual real zoning will be what controls.
okay,
So what do you think, Corey, about that? I mean,
You're right, it won't matter if they choose to turn it down or accept it. If they choose to turn it down, it will matter because you might have future requests, but it's gonna be a while before somebody requests after getting rejected. If they accept it, you're just gonna have a parcel that shows as, if you choose to change it, you'll have a parcel that shows as residential, but is zoned commercial, which does not affect what they can do on the property. The zoning is all that matters in terms of what they can do on the property.
okay. Yeah, I'd like to just, if we have to, swing back to that one at the end. The number 4,
That's gonna be the, property at the end of Summit and Zaya Street. There's an old house currently on it. If you look at that property though, it's bordered on 3 sides by commercial property. And it does have a main street. It's right there off Main Street when you're considering, what it should be, maybe going forward in the future.
And so this is the first example of something I'd like to talk about. If you look at Paul's notes, he says C3 to residential. It's shown as residential future land on the future land use map because the existing land use is residential. But for instance, if you change it to commercial or you change it to residential, it won't matter because it's already zoned C3. So you're not going to go and change the residential use that's already there. It's a non-conforming residence at this point. If they choose to do something commercial, it's already zone C3, so they have the right to do it regardless of whatever's on your future land use map. With some food for thought as you consider that and similar ones down the list.
okay.
So we don't even have to make a decision on that one then? or-
Well, I mean, do you have
It is what it
anything?
is, or-
No, do you have anything you want to add about, do you have any issues with that change into the future map here?
No, I don't think I
Okay.
do.
Anybody else? Okay, number 5,
That's gonna be a single family residence of, Azalea Lane, kind of be the second, that's on the left. Stuart Hensley's place would be the larger one below there, be the next one up. I'm not sure who lives there, but it's just a single family residence. It's only accessed off of Azalea. There's no Main Street access for that. I think it's switching. The recommendation was to switch over to R10.
okay. Any discussion on that one? Number 6,
Well.
okay, sorry, number 5.
Sorry. And then Stewart's property is, E3.
It is.
Mm-hmm,
And, I mean, if anything were ever to be commercial there, they would probably need parking or something. I mean,
I guess the difference being Stewart's property has Main Street access, whereas this one doesn't. This one's only accessed off of Azalea.
oh, okay. So we want to keep Azalea residential and then even add one more to it, which was number 4.
And again, just to make sure we're all clear, it's already zoned commercial. So if they want to develop something commercially on that parcel, they have absolute right to do so. Nothing you do in this land use map will change that. And this won't change it to a residential zone by virtue of being changed on the land use map. It just means that they had requested a down zone to R10, you could consider it at that point, but it's very rare that somebody requests a down zone because it devalues their property.
The only reason I would think that it ever would is if, say if there was a fire and they were using it as a dwelling as they are now, and then the home was destroyed and they wanted to build it back. I mean, they could either ask that it be rezoned to R10, or they could go through a conditional use permitting process to ask to build a dwelling and keep the C3 designation.
They could, just keep in mind that one of the recommendations that you all agreed on in the plan to allow residences in the C3 district. So if you move on that recommendation, even in the
Right.
example you gave, they'd be able to build
Yeah.
back their house.
Okay. Does that answer your questions, Greg? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm just, kind of, okay.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
No, it's not, it's just kind of, it's like, well, what's the point, but, okay.
Number 7.
7 would be, it's got North Main frontage, that's the, it's court property, I believe it's the court property going up North Main Street, just before you get to the, on the left, going up toward the Lakeport Pool. At the moment, it's undeveloped, but it does have frontage to North Main Street.
Any issues on that one? And I'm guessing the other number 7 is the same
They're
property.
both the same,
Okay.
in the same situation.
Okay, number 8.
Let's see, number 8. That's the reconciliation house, I believe.
Yeah.
Looks like it.
Yeah. I think that's correct.
Yes.
Again, you can see it's pretty much surrounded by C1 and it's on the corner there of Academy and Avery, with some other C1 properties to the south and to the west of it.
Any issues on that one? Okay, 9.
9 is, that's one of those that's become a single lot that was, it used to be a, individual parcel, but it's been purchased in the residential lot coming off of the back side of Academy. That includes that lot as well now, so it's not an individual lot anymore.
Okay. Any comments on number 9? Number 10?
10 is a single-family residence as you go up Swiss Avenue. It'll be basically the second house up. Go to Ted's and a residence, and then the next residence on the left. I'm not sure who owns that.
Is that the parks?
Is it?
I'm back on this.
Yeah, it's just a little brick house.
On the left. You got the big brick house on the front, on the main street.
You got Ted's.
Oh, well,
Ted's.
It's the one with all the flags on it.
okay, thanks, Bob.
The flags.
Any discussion on that one?
Be right across from.
Mm-hmm. Number 11.
Wait,
That is,
Okay, sorry, what?
excuse me, Kim,
Uh-huh.
no, we skipped number 6.
6. Okay, 6 is a, individual lot, Porter's, Garden Deli.
That's behind you.
The owner of that.
That's Wells Fargo's property.
And Wells Fargo.
That property is definitely should not be residential. It should be zoned in the C1 because it just offers so much to the downtown area. It's
Right.
level. It actually drops, but it could be filled in. It doesn't really serve a purpose on Azalea Lane. And it's owned by Wells Fargo as far as I know. But it's a lot of space. There could be you could put a hotel there. You could do a lot of really nice things. And, it could also be condominiums or something.
An expanded Garden Deli.
More outdoor seating.
Sell and get out. That's part of my plan. No. It's, anyway, it does, well, my point is it doesn't offer much to Azalea Lane, but it offers a lot to, the square area, because it's level, people like to walk on level surfaces, not up and down hills, and, that's all my point is on that one.
So you're good with it going to mixed use?
Or commercial.
Yeah, I mixed use.
Commercial where C1 or C3 is what it's projected to be.
Right.
Okay.
Number 11 is the Mandela property, and that's not an individual lot anymore either. It actually connects to that entire property that's below it, that's already zoned commercial. I know there's residential on it at the moment, but that's actually Main Street property that it's not an individual lot anymore.
Paul, did you want to say something about that one?
Yeah, it doesn't fit. I realize it's connected, but it kind of opens the door for any commercial property owner along Main Street buying residential property behind them and, then coming in and saying this should be commercial when it may be not be appropriate for it to be commercial. So I don't feel strongly about this one, but I just think it looks weird.
So did you say, does one person own both of those? Because this looks like it's one big lot.
Yeah, it's one continuous lot at the moment.
Okay.
It's just got split zoning on it.
Yeah.
It's split zoning down the middle of the property, there's a lot.
Because in all fairness, there are other lots that do the same thing, that look like two different lots that are owned by one owner and are zoned the same, which to me, I understand the reasoning of if you owned this and this one, you would want it to be zoned the same in order to sell in the future to make it easier. To me, it would seem unfair to say no to that one, but leave, for example, Randy Banks's or some of those on down the street that would be the same way as this one.
Again, these aren't two parcels anymore. That's one
Just the one.
individual parcel at the moment, number 11. That entire piece that runs down the
Is this
street.
it? Is this just right here, this whole thing
It
right
is.
here? Or 11?
It's right here. It's this one.
Oh,
And on here, you can see where it was originally too. Look at here. Actually, I can't see right here. See, it looks like there was, where it's two parcels before,
yeah,
but it's actually one
okay.
now.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else discussion on that one? Okay, I'm just gonna make a notation of the ones that we've discussed.
Oh,
Go
it's-
Call my objection.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let me just note the
it doesn't have
ones,
to be unanimous. I mean, it's just,
I'm just
are you
gonna
gonna
note,
recommend the whole plan or not?
I'm gonna note the ones that we have some controversy over, and we'll just come back at the end and
okay.
that way we know what we're looking at the end. Okay. Paul?
I know we're approving the whole plan, but we need to be together on the individual parcels that are gonna be part of the map that's in the plan. So I think it is important for us to concur on all the changes.
We,
Take a vote.
my understanding is we'll make a vote in the end. Like we could say, we could approve it with certain changes, correct?
Yeah.
Is how we can send it through. And what I was gonna do is just wait to the very end so we can kind of group the ones that we need to vote on, and so we can do it all in one whack if that's okay. Okay, number 12.
Number 12 is the Peterson property there behind Pig and Grits. Again, it only has Main Street access back into there. There's currently residential on that, but it's fronted on, three sides by commercial, and the only access point is off of West Main Street. It has a West Main Street address as well.
Any comments on that?
I think it should belong to C3.
And so can I make a comment then? So if everyone agrees to leave that property, to make that property commercial, then I would feel fair having to go back to the Ron Powell property and agree to make that commercial, because that would be consistent. because part of my no vote for his property was that the Peterson property had the same address, but was not C3, was not C3 either. So if I am going to recommend to do that one, I would recommend then for his to go ahead. Paul?
There is a difference in that, this property right now has consistent existing uses, I think. Where, the Ron Powell property is basically consistent structures with the adjoining property, so.
Okay. So that'll be another one we'll come back to at the end. Okay?
13 is going to be the properties on the right, just before you get up to the Burnsville School on Greenmount Drive, be the Engage property and the ones on either side of those. I'm not gonna, maybe Corey speak more to those, but that's the properties we're talking about.
So the reason that I had put these as commercial in the future land use map was when I was doing the existing land use survey, I saw commercial signage out in front of these buildings. I think they're artist studios, maybe a handful of other uses. So to be consistent with the system I was using, I put these as commercial in the future land use map, but they are currently zoned R10, and R10 does allow customary home occupations if you want to consider like an artist studio, a home occupation.
Any discussion on the number 13 properties?
I agree, it should be, go to commercial, because it used to be Stamey's, little convenience stores, and it kind of fits into this, like, connecting C1 up to the school. You can take a nice stroll up the sidewalk, and, it wouldn't hurt to have more shops and things to give people something to do in the future. I don't know. That's just my vision. But I like that idea because it used to be, people used to walk all over the town, and they'd walk up at the school and they'd walk back to the square, and there were little shops, and that was one of them back in the old days.
That old days.
Back way back. Remember Stanley's, you're old.
I Steal candy from Stamy.
I remember Stamey's store.
I don't. I was thinking Greg had lost it for a minute. I thought he was somewhere else. Paul, anything you wanted to add? I see you have that.
Greg convinced me. I mean, I walk by there every day, and basically, it appears to me there's no parking, and that it's not really going to a commercial or mixed use designation would open it to, any kind of commercial that fits into that category. And that's what concerned me. Having shops in there that you could buy things in, I wouldn't have any objection to that. And so I hear what Greg's saying, so I don't really feel strongly about that.
Okay,
Good. Leave it
Okay.
as is.
all right. We'll move on to 14.
14, there's two parcels there. One, the upper parcel is part of the parcel that's above it. They're all one parcel at the moment, so it's all would be a C2 designation, the one that goes all the way to the highway. The other parcel, which will be the furthest to the right, that long skinny piece, it doesn't really adjoin any residential areas, and the only access point would be off of Depot Street in a fairly commercial area. That's where Southern Concrete and that area is right there.
Okay. Any discussion on 14? Okay, 15?
15 is currently Dr. Smoker's office over here, between RHA and Smoky Ridge. Again, that kind of area there is more of a, it's not really an industrial park. What would you call that? There's doctor's offices, there's medical park clinics, so making that more of a commercial designation. My fit, again, the same thing kind of goes along with 16, although 16 is currently used residential. It's the only access point is going to be off of Pensacola Road, and it is abutting those same industrial or commercial medical complex area.
And the reason that I put that as commercial, those two, were because it looked like there was a body shop already being in operation there. Whether or not it's commercial, I don't know.
Good stuff.
Is that James's property?
Yeah, it's Reggie's
Oh.
property.
The,
All right.
Can I say something? I hate
Yeah.
to just talk, but.
No,
That whole road there on the right and left, I mean, I think it should all be commercial because, you know, like Joe Higgins's property is falling apart there and stuff. I mean, that's pretty valuable property. I think, well, I don't know if it's in a floodplain or whatnot. And you've got like an apartment complex, Woodlawn and everything, but just around in there connected up to the hospital, I just don't think that's gonna be residential in the future. It seems like a good place to put something big like a shopping center and just use that, you know, tie it in with Dillinger. But as far as approving these two, yeah, you know, but I would think to prove the whole street, both sides of it, because it's not a very safe place for a residential area anymore. It's too close to that highway and this cars go too fast. And back on beyond it is fine for residential, and then the Woodlawn is residential. But I was looking at that because, you know, James is in poor health and everything, but it's, you know,
I think that's being developed by somebody now, right?
For the property, is that what you're talking
That's what
about?
he's talking about.
Yeah, they're doing some development right through there with Fortner Street.
Well, that's somebody bought it.
Yeah.
And
The place is on the right, just before you get down to the red light there.
okay.
and there's also a daycare back in there. And
Yeah,
there's
in fact, the
James's-
last rezoning we had to do with some property that was near the daycare going from residential to commercial was approved. So part of that, all that on the corner, I think, is commercial now.
Okay,
Okay,
Yeah, so it's trending that way.
all right, good.
okay, good. Okay, 17?
17 is a property there on the left as you're going up Mountain View Drive. The only access point is off of the residential street of Mountain View Drive, just there above Ingles. That's what we're talking about.
Any discussion on that one? Okay, 18?
18,
3 properties, looks like on 18.
yeah, that's going to be kind of behind Carolina Collision. That's all residential areas, and the only way to access it is off of Presnell Street. So it's currently zoned as commercial, but it's probably more appropriate to be residential.
Any discussion on those? Okay, 19?
And then 19 are going to be the I think it's 3, maybe 4 residences between Fox Shopping Center and the new fire department. Those are only accessed off of Pinola Street. And Pinola Street is technically a dead-end street, although you can go out through the shopping center and behind Pizza Hut, but that we don't necessarily have an access. So that's technically 4 residences on a dead-end street.
But the fire department is listed as commercial, correct?
Industrial or institutional.
Right, institutional, yeah, okay.
That's the word. And it will be on the opposite side, the southern side of the street. There will be the fire department property.
Any discussion on those? 19, Paul?
The only reason I had opposed with the question mark was here are 4 properties. On one side, you got a fire department with trucks going in and out and training going on there, and so increased traffic. And on the backside is commercial. It just seems like we're creating a little island of residential.
I agree with that. I don't think anyone would want to live between the two. Wouldn't be prime.
So I would vote for leaving it C2.
I would like to see that, as residential myself. Anyone else have any opinions? We can come back to it.
I agree with you all on that one.
Okay.
So you all, to be clear, you would like to see that change in the future land use map to commercial?
Oh,
Yeah.
All those portions.
Just left, I guess it would be left.
It's already there.
Yeah, it's already zoned, but
yeah,
for the future land use map, I think I had it as residential. So
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
switch
we have to change
if
it.
that's what you want. with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
To commercial, right?
Yes. Okay. Well, they're left as commercial. In other words, just leave them as it is, not change them
Oh, okay.
over to residential.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Is that all of them?
That's all that I had on my list.
Okay, so, we agreed to the number 19 being changed. Let's go back and discuss the number 12. Sorry, Brian, which one was that again? Number 12.
For the 12 or 11.
I had 12 and
It's a
11.
question
What's the one
mark.
behind the pig and grits?
Yes, that's the Petersons behind Pig and Grits, the house, and I think it's a mobile home, right?
There's a mobile home on the right, yes, no residents on it.
And then 3 because
Okay, and that would be taking it from residential to commercial.
Right.
Right.
Paul, did you say you would like to see it left as residential? Was that right?
Excuse me, I had to unmute. Yeah, 11, I still think should stay residential, but, like I said, it's a huge deal to me. I just think it's more consistent to not be changed for future use.
Okay, what about number 12? Let's do it, I'm working backwards.
Yeah, I don't feel strongly about 12. I'm good with the proposed changes in 12 just because of that commercial use goes way north, right next to it. So it's got a pretty big boundary that's, that is consistent with the adjoining uses. So I don't feel strongly about 12. You could even split it if you wanted to, but that big chunk of 12, the big one, I think is easy going commercial. The littler chunk, I don't see why it needs to go commercial, but if it's the same landowner, you might as well take them together.
Okay,
Have you got a GIS up, Corey? I think, are they still separate
Which one?
parcels?
They are.
it's right behind Pig and Grits.
It's the same.
Yeah,
Um,
that,
you know, they've got that rock house behind there and then there's
yeah,
a mobile
but,
home beside
number
it.
12 he's talking about.
Yeah, the two number 12s,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Is everyone else okay taking that to commercial?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so we'll scratch that one off. Okay, then number 11 was the Mandela property,
If
correct?
I can just speak from a zoning, perspective, if we left that as it is, you're splitting an individual parcel in half. So if somebody, and it's all one owner, if someone decided to develop that property, deciding where those property lines and which zoning district that's in, when it's all one parcel, might get tricky. I don't know how to even know how that plays out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They would ask for a rezone.
They just, but if they didn't, they would have to cite the commercial use on the front part of the property, couldn't have anything back. They couldn't put parking or anything back.
No, they couldn't use the back at all.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
'Cause, okay.
Did you say they couldn't use it as parking?
Mm-mm.
No,
That's,
No.
we
they
make it.
couldn't use it because it's all one parcel together now, right?
It currently is, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, you're still opposed to 11, right? Going to commercial?
I'm good. I think Brian's comments are correct, so I won't oppose that change.
Is everyone else okay with that change?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So then that takes us back to number 3. Changing it, to commercial. And I no longer have an opposition to changing that to commercial since I think it's now consistent with the other properties. Paul, anything you want to say again on that one?
I've said my piece. I'll be happy whichever way we go.
Okay. Does anyone else have any issues with, taking that property over to commercial now?
Can I make a comment?
Yep.
And I don't want to muddy the waters, and I know this has been one of those sensitive ones, but as I was looking at today, to me, it makes the most sense to make that and the small parcel beside it both commercial, because they both have the same issue of only having East Main access, only having East Main address. Does that make sense?
The vacant lot that's beside it.
Both funded by commercial. The place furthest to the right has an access off of, I lost my space, but off of CeeLo Street.
So wouldn't, if that, I drove up there and looked, but wouldn't it, if you did that next adjoining parcel and then the next one, isn't that where that, what did we decide that was? It's not a group home.
It is a group home.
It's a group.
Okay, group home. Is that would make that entire block,
Well, the only thing
Commercial,
is, the furthest one to the right does have access, that's not Main Street, the group
Yeah.
one has access off CeeLo Street, but those two other parcels, the only access point you have is off of East Main Street, and they are both fronted by C3. So to me, I don't, doing the one without doing the other, without, again, this is just a plan, not, we're not changing any zoning, but not planning for that one to make a commercial use in the future seems, or at least open up the options of commercial use by designated as C3 would seem to make the most sense. If you're using those criteria for one, you might use it for the other one. It's in the exact same spot.
So
Paul?
I see them as almost like an island in a commercial area, because the only way to access those is through a commercial parking lot. You gotta drive through Jim Hughes's parking lot to get either one of those. Now, if you combine them together, it might make a nice residential lot, but they're so small, you know?
Paul?
If you're gonna change one, you might as well change them both. I agree with that.
Anyone else? Anything want to add to? Do we do that now? Go ahead and change those three? Are those two? Or that one?
So what I've got listed so far to be changed would be to add that parcel on the right of the Hoyt property to make it commercial rather than residential, and those 4 parcels across from the fire station, make
Yes.
those commercial rather than residential. Those are the only changes I've got based on the discussion. Is that correct?
According to me, does that sound right to you guys?
Now, this is future.
Yeah,
All the changes on the future land use
yeah,
map.
future. Does that sound right to you guys? That's what you guys have?
So what you could do, if everybody agrees on those, you could do a
A motion?
motion to change the future land use map, and then you would go to your next, which would be to adopt.
Okay,
You could adopt this revised, how you prefer to do it.
Adopt the whole plan with the map, revised map. It might be easier to just do one instead of, however you feel most comfortable.
well, who wants to make a motion? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, go ahead and word it articulately, because.
So I'll make the motion that we adopt the changes on the input for the
Can you give him those addresses, maybe?
to C3 designation for the three, let's see. That was the,
You could make a
Four.
motion as simple as make the changes as agreed by the group, and I've got the numbers down. Rather than have the motion call 10 numbers.
yeah, I'll make a motion that we agree on the changes that we adopted. That sounds correct.
Will that fly, Heather?
I think that would fly. A motion to adopt the future land use map as revised by the group.
Yes,
Yes.
that works. Okay, all agree?
Yes.
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 Wordsmith.
Okay.
And the next thing would be the motion, which we actually have a resolution here that you guys would sign, to recommend the land use plan with its revisions that you make tonight to the town council.
okay.
So somebody needs to make that motion.
I'll make that motion of what Heather just said.
And then you can vote.
All agreed?
Alright,
Aye. Okay. Oh, yay.
Mm,
Okay, so we now move on to the discussion of the training modules.
Let y'all know real quick, what's available, and there's one of these in the packets, and I've got hard copies. There should be some laid out for you, just so you know what classes are offered. We did a little trial run, trying WebEx with these guys, and it worked. So if you all would let me know if you're interested in, we can set it up at any time that works. We'll try to do just a couple at a time, and a couple people at a time on each WebEx, and I can pretty much do it anytime it's convenient. So if you let me know what you're interested in and what times work for you, we'll try to coordinate those and get you set up to do those.
You- You're doing it here
You can do it online at home.
and do it online at home?
And I can set it up, kind of moderate it, and
Okay.
I'll just watch and I'll just keep clicking and just do something.
How about,
do it in this building here,
no, you can do it on yours.
do it at home,
Mhm.
but you're gonna be moderating?
Mhm.
I'll be just running it and
Okay.
watch it from anywhere.
Oh,
Would we all want to just bite the bullet and pick one now, and then you can contact him when you want to do it? That way everybody could at least do one.
Do they go in descending order? Probably, Kim, everybody should start with the first one. I'm just looking at these, because I've been through them at the school government and it. I would probably maybe skip spot zoning.
Okay. Skip what?
That's-
Spot zoning.
That's pretty,
Oh, spot zoning.
that's some legal stuff, but, definitely the first one, process for the ordinance adoption and amendments. Good to know that. Exactions, I don't really know that exactions would be something, 8 and 9, I might not get to first.
Okay,
Special and conditional use permits, which are gonna become just special use permits, that you guys may wanna look at that. Amending local development regulations. And subdivisions, we haven't gotten to a revision of the subdivision ordinance, but that would be coming
Mhm.
type, so that probably would be good.
so,
And there may be some changes that this new law, this 160D, makes to some of this information,
Mhm.
but this will give you a good basic overview of sort of what your role is in all this big process.
I was thinking, would it be okay in the beginning if we each chose one different one, and then if we wanted to do more, we could, at least one person here sat through it, and it, at least somebody would know.
Sure.
Cause there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us, and
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
if Chad, could we all log in at one time and listen to one, all of us?
Yeah, that would make more sense, correct, if we all.
We were trying to avoid having you all together at once.
Because even if you do it virtually, it's considered a meeting.
Meeting.
Okay,
You have to notice it. I mean, it's not that it can't be done,
right.
but it's,
Oh, I see.
see, because of open meetings law, you can't
Yeah.
have a majority of you together.
Okay.
My thought was, if we were to have something to come up about group homes, at least one of us has sat through a training and say, oh, maybe I know what that's, or a module might know what that's about, in case we all can't get to all of them. But I'm sure we're all welcome to do them all,
I definitely think everybody should do the first one.
the process for ordinance.
Yeah, the
Okay,
process part.
so we can just
Super helpful.
get in touch with you when and where, but it would be nice if we each could,
Yeah, if you just.
commit to doing it.
Do the,
doing one.
in the general time that might work, we can start working out some times that we can do them.
Okay,
And hopefully, I mean, they used to have a really good, meeting that would come up to the Arboretum, the school government, and just kind of do everything and one big thing. And it was really, really helpful.
yeah, that'd be nice.
So hopefully they can start that back.
Yeah. Paul, did you have something to say?
Just, could someone please email me the list?
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
Thanks.
He doesn't have the list.
Any other discussion on those? Any other comments, anybody? Okay. We need to set a special meeting of the design review committee to review the farmer's market plans.
We don't have that packet yet, but it's supposed to be coming in as year's so.
Y'all can pick a date towards, that's what Jamie said, y'all can pick a date towards, maybe the end of the month.
A new farmer's market?
Uh-huh.
Where?
It's gonna be right there across from Home Place where the old hospital is.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
And,
Good.
it's been a really neat process. The, design school up at Appalachian State, actually, their students have designed it. And we went from, I don't know how many we watched the first one, there was a lot, like 20 or so, and then they, pared it down, and they're coming up with one design, and then their build group will come and actually build it. And I think they're gonna work with the high school students building
awesome.
program out there.
That's great.
It'll be part of it, so it's gonna be a really, really cool project. But, our ordinance says that you guys have to look at any designs in C3, so you'll get a first look at it.
Okay.
We've not seen the final one.
Would that need to be the end of February, did you say?
Yeah, I mean, just to give them time to get it. I don't know how close they are. We've been getting
We
excited.
considered this meeting, but thought this meeting was too close, so we felt maybe with another month or so-ish, that, maybe they would have enough time to pull together what they needed to submit for you guys for review.
Was that second week in February? Whatever day y'all-
14th, anybody know anything?
You'll be in trouble if you're not.
Yeah, of course we are.
Are you wanting it around the 15th, the 22nd?
Either or, it doesn't matter.
Should we just maybe look at the 22nd in case they're a little behind? Would that help?
Yeah, maybe that would help, and that would give them plenty of time to get whatever they needed done. See, I think this semester is the semester the people who are building it are in class.
Mm-hmm.
So the design people are trying to finish up their part, so the building people can come in.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Does the 22nd sound good for everyone?
This is February?
Yeah,
Yeah,
February 22nd.
February 22nd.
Is that good with you, Abe?
Is that on?
That's on a Monday. Is
a Monday.
Okay.
too.
What time?
that okay?
Yeah,
Mhm.
6:15.
Yeah.
Here,
Yeah, that would be in here. Um,
Then there are a couple other things out there that may or may not be ready by the end. If not, it's gonna be more toward the regular meeting, but I'll let you know down the road if we
Okay.
closer on those.
Okay, so that would make our next regular planning board meeting April the 13th. And that will also be in here, right, since we're doing the web? 6:15. Okay, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
Do we need to do anything about what we did at our last meeting with respect to Ron Powell, since we kind of changed directions tonight?
No, that boat's kind of floated, so we'll just go up to the big board now, and they'll make a decision based on the staff report.
Okay. Thanks.
But I'm sure they'll see the changes we made on this and take it into consideration.
I'm
Take
sure.
all that into consideration, sure.
Yeah. Okay, who made the motion? Sorry.
I
Was it
did.
you?
I made a motion.
All agree, we're adjourned. All right.